Hello, Internet. It's the Pennsylvania Hitman coming to you from the PaHitman studios in Erie, Pennsylvania. And I'm here to talk to you about my martial arts and training background, Part 3, boxing. I wanted to get into boxing to improve my street fight ability. With my wrestling background, it was pretty easy for me to take people down and beat them there, but I was uncomfortable with the stand-up aspect of it. I was getting into a lot of street fights back then, and I was just trying to improve my fighting ability. I started boxing in 1991 at a place called the Greater Erie Boxing Center. It was in a shitty part of town. The building was pretty run down, and we didn't have any heat in the building. And when I say we didn't have any heat in the building, I mean there was no access to heat at all in that part of the building that we were in. I was living in Embro, Pennsylvania at the time, which is about a 30-minute commute to Erie. So it was pretty tough to commute back and forth to the boxing gym. I was borrowing my parents' car and taking the bus, getting rides for friends, pretty much any way I could get to boxing. My parents were going through a divorce at the time, so my home life was bonkers. My parents didn't want me boxing, so they told me I wasn't allowed to go. So every time I borrowed the car, I was saying I was going somewhere else. I was going to the gym. I was doing everything I could, basically, to sneak to the gym. My first fight was going to be at the PA Golden Glove Finals. I got a bye all the way to the finals, and the fight was going to be in Erie at the Rainbow Garden Convention Center, which seats about 1,200 people. I believe the weight was right around 119 pounds. The night before I was supposed to fight that day, I got into a really bad street fight where I nearly died. I was hanging out in Edinburgh outside this pizza shop called John Wildwood's, where everyone kind of hung out, got pizza, hung out outside, BS, did whatever. College kids would go there too, so there was a lot of times where college kids were intermingling with the high school kids. And there was a group of wrestlers that were drunk, going in to get pizza, do whatever, drinking like they were doing. I got into an argument with one of the wrestlers, and we got into a fight. I was kicking his ass standing up, and then he got underneath me and got behind me, and he was getting ready to suplex me over his shoulders. So I dropped my weight down to try to prevent from being thrown, but he was probably, 195 pound, 200 pound guy. It's the night before the fight, so I'm probably at 121, 122 pounds at the most. So it was pretty easy for him to souffle me over his back. So he suplexed me, and my head ended up hitting this this planter. They had out in Embro, there's a sidewalk, and they got trees planted all the way down the sidewalk. So they got wood, which basically is made up of 4x4s, two stacked up on each other, and they got different designs with soil in them. My head went, bam! The back of my head went right off the back of the wood and knocked me unconscious. He must have hit me a few more times after I was unconscious, because when I woke up and and finally got to look in the mirror, I had black and blue marks all over my face. So he knocked me unconscious. He must have punched me a bunch of times. And the next thing I remember waking up to someone must have called an ambulance on me. And I have paramedics. I don't know who they were. I don't know if they were with the police or whatever, but I got nervous because I knew I was just in a fight, and all of a sudden I'm waking up and I have these paramedics like trying to pull my jacket off, mess with my shirt, and I pushed up. I just kind of went crazy and scrambled, and I ran out in the street, got hit by a car, rolled over the hood of the car, got up and took off, and I just ran. I must have went home or whatever. I really don't remember much, but I know I had like a really, really, really bad concussion. I didn't tell no one. The police never came to my house or nothing, so I assumed that they just dropped it or whatever. But the next day, that was a Friday night. Saturday, I go to the fights. Al Zook's there. He sees me. He's like, "What the fuck happened to you?" I'm just like, "Oh, I got into a fight yesterday." He's like, "Jesus Christ, are you all right? Blah, blah, blah. Can you still fight?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm still fighting." So, I get through the medicals. I don't know how I passed the medicals, because I'm telling you, man, I should not have fought, man. I was all fucked up. So I'm in there, I boxed. Every time the dude hit me, bam, I fell down, man. Freaking, and they finally stopped the fight after the first round. And I think the ref probably stopped it. I can't imagine it lasted more than 40 seconds, which was embarrassing. And no one, the crowd doesn't know what the heck happened to me the night before, but that was embarrassing. So, but I placed second in the Golden Gloves, which was kind of ridiculous. So I went back home, whatever, and the next couple of weeks after school, I ended up having to go to the nurse's office in school for the next within the next 2 weeks, as I went to gym class and we were playing torpedo ball, and I remember getting hit in the head with a torpedo ball, and bam, I went unconscious. So they took me down to the nurse's office and said, oh, you went unconscious, blah blah blah. Called my parents, they picked me up, took me home. Never went to the hospital, nothing like that. I just told my mom, oh, I'm fine, blah blah blah, everything's all right. So I'm sure I had like a super duper bad concussion, because I didn't have my wits back to me for probably at least a month after that happened. So that was my first fight. After my first fight, I was in the back. I got approached by this guy named Matt DeForest. He was a coach at another local gym in Erie called the Lower East Side Fighting Eagles. His brother was already my wrestling coach, so I didn't know Matt, but I at least knew the family. He invited me to come to his gym and train if I wanted to. And after thinking about it for a few weeks, I thought it was a better idea to go there. They had a better facility. They had heat. They actually had a guy. His name's Mike Maggio. He was on the U.S. Olympic boxing team. I believe he was a national Golden Gloves champion. So it seemed to me like they were already training guys. They had pros down there. This one pro that was down there, his name was Crandall King. He was a real good pro boxer. Seemed like they really had some good stuff going on there. They had a full weight room. They had arm wrestlers that were arm wrestling professionally there. It was just a much better facility. So I decided to switch gyms and go and train at the Lower East Side Fighting Eagles. So this gym I got invited to, the Lower East Side Fighting Eagles, they were known to be super tough guys. Like they had a reputation. They were worried about me fighting on their team because they went on like a 16 or 18 year stretch with no one ever losing by knockout at their gym, and they're really proud. They're really proud fighters and competitors. They had a good arm wrestling team, a good boxing team. They were doing everything, and the only way you could work out at that gym is pretty much if you were tough. You would get kicked out of that gym if you were a pussy. So you could not be a pussy and fight at that gym. So they were a little concerned about my last performance getting knocked out. So I went in there and I trained. I just did exactly whatever the coach told me to do. I knew he knew what he was talking about, so I'm just do whatever he says. I swear for like the first 2 months, he just sat me in front of the mirror and had me go back and forth, side to side, back and forth, side to side. I think he was probably testing me to see if I would just listen and I would keep coming back, but I swear for 2 months, it was back and forth, side to side. I fought for the Lower East Side for about 2 straight years, training really consistently, fighting consistently, winning more fights than I lost. The following year in '92, I fought my way to the Golden Glove Finals again. This time it was in Pittsburgh, and I fought a guy in Uniontown, and it was a war, back and forth war. I clearly won, but it was a tough fight. I remember on the way home, some of my friends drove down to watch me fight, and I rode home with them. And we're in a van, and we had to pull the van over. I was throwing up. I'm sure I had a concussion after that fight as well. But I won. It was awesome. And then got back. Kept training regularly. Still street fighting regularly. Boxing all the time, and I won the Golden Gloves the next year too. So I won the Golden Gloves in 1992 and 1993. So that's pretty much my career in boxing in Erie. I decided I was getting into a lot of trouble. I was selling drugs. A lot of people were after me. Someone shot at me. They almost killed me. They ended up blowing out our back window in a pickup truck that we were in. Shit was just hitting the fan in that town, and things were going crazy. My good friend Donnie, him and his sister were moving to Florida, and they asked me if I wanted to go. And I was like, you know what? fuck it. I'll go down there and I'll see if I can find a boxing gym and I'll train down there. So I'm like, fuck it. I got to get the hell out of here, kind of let things cool down. So I hopped in. We didn't even know what city we were going in when we headed to Florida. She was going down there to be a professional stripper. He was just going down there because Donnie's Donnie. He didn't care. He just wanted to get out of town, and Florida sounded like fun. So on the way down there, we're driving to Florida. Don't know where we're going. We're literally deciding in the car where we're going to go, and we picked Florida. We decided to go, let's go to Daytona Beach. So we're going to go to Daytona Beach, Florida. So that was the city we decided to head to. So we went to Daytona Beach, Florida, and we're staying at some different hotels down there, kind of bouncing back and forth, getting good deals on hotels, and we were staying at hotels down there. Donnie found out that he had to go back to PA because he caught a case and he had to go to court. Probably was going to do a little bit of jail time. She was still down there. I wasn't really super close with his sister, so I didn't feel comfortable staying with his sister. I found a boxing gym in Daytona Beach ran by the world champ. He was a world champion at the time. He was the WBO light heavyweight champion of the world, Daryl Lee Fromm. He was the IBO light heavyweight champion of the world. So I was boxing at his gym. I paid for a year membership up front. I had money saved up from the drugs I was selling, and I paid for a year membership up front. I wasn't comfortable staying with his sister, so I got close. I got really, really close with this Daryl guy, and he told me that I could just crash at the gym. I could just take a shower at the gym and just kind of just throw a sleeping bag off in the office area and stay at the gym. Now I got to tell you about this Daryl guy. Keep in mind, his name's Daryl Lee Fromm. Look him up. He was the IBO light heavyweight champion of the world. He had a ton of boxing connections. He was Vinny Pazienza's former sparring partner. He has worked with Kevin Rooney. I mean, he called up Kevin Rooney, and I was having a conversation with Kevin Rooney on the phone, talking to him, asking him about Mike Tyson and all kinds of stuff. This guy had some serious connections, and he was a super tough dude. He could street fight. You just knew this dude was about something. But there was a bad side to this dude too. This dude was fucked up. Everything was going pretty good with me and this Daryl and stuff, and things started kind of just getting weird. I don't know if he had a drug problem. I'm assuming he did, because shit just started acting funny. He got in a couple fights out in front of the gym, beating up people, in my opinion, for no reason at all. And things were just getting weird. He was living with his mom, so I I didn't think nothing, because I'm in my early 20s at the time. I'm not even thinking it, but he's probably in his late 30s at the time. He's living with his mom. That's probably a little weird. And then him and his mom must have got into it, so he started sleeping with me in the same room at the gym. And this is when shit went bad. This dude actually put a gun in my mouth. I was sleeping and I woke up to a fucking black pistol in my mouth. And he was like, "Oh, you woke up." He's like, "I was just trying to see how light or how heavy of a sleeper you were, man. You sleep too heavy, blah, blah." This dude literally put a fucking gun in my mouth, and I woke up to it. I was just like, whoa. So I was kind of scared of the dude. I didn't snap out or freak out or nothing. I was just like, dude, what the fuck? Yeah, I was sleeping. And things from there were just getting weird. He was always like bringing in guys to spar, and it's almost like sometimes I think he was trying to get me beat up. I'm just like, I got to get the fuck out of there. There was a guy that was training there as well who ended up becoming one of my best friends in life. I still talk to him this day. His name's George Pfeiffer. He was going to that gym too. And I was talking to him, hanging out with him afterwards at the gym, and we were just, we were doing shit together. He's like, "Hey man, if you don't want to stay there, you can stay with me. My wife is out of town. She's in Germany right now, and it's just me and my friend Eric that are living at the house." I'm like, "Oh man, that would be great." So I moved out of the gym and I moved in with George, and I I quit going to the gym right then and there, and I was trying to figure out what my next place to train was going to be. I was trying to become a professional and do something with boxing. I felt like I could really be a good professional boxer. I felt like I could take as good of a punch as someone can throw, and I just need someone to basically just improve my fighting skills because I was as tough as you could get. So I just needed someone to hone in my boxing skills. I thought the world could be mine. So I really was trying to do this boxing thing. So I don't know how I got this number, but someone gave me this number for a connection in Jacksonville, Florida. Supposedly they house fighters, they put them up in apartments, they pay for their living expenses, food, and all you do is train and fight. I'm like, fuck man, that's like a dream come true. So I called this number and I talked to them, told them what I've been doing, you know, this, that, and the other thing. They're like, yeah, that's cool. You know, come on up. George, my buddy George, ended up, he never fought amateur yet, but they said he could come up with us too. So me and him both moved up there. So me and George both moved to Jacksonville. They had the trainer there, his name was Tommy Richardson, who was actually, man, he was a really, really good trainer, man. That dude, he knew what the hell he was doing. I'm very fortunate enough to train under him, man. He was really making me the fighter that I wanted to become. So everything was going super good there. Probably a little shady that they, you know, that they were okay with my friend going up. It seemed like it was probably a place where they were just trying to use the fighters and make some money off of them. The places that we lived right on their facility. They were doing the towing for the city of Jacksonville. So they had basically a tow lot. They had a bunch of junk cars because they had a towing and salvage business. So their main business was towing cars for the city of Jacksonville. And then they had fighters staying in these makeshift apartments that they had there. Me and George were staying in like a camper, like a motorhome, and then some other fighters were staying in these weird apartments. They were not nice, so we weren't living it luxurious. You know, we didn't have TVs. You know, we were there just to fight. That's all we wanted to do was train and fight. The gym was really nice. They had a pool, hot tub. The gym equipment was top notch, man. They had a dietitian guy. He was, you know, they were feeding us certain meals every day. They had it going on. They were doing a really good job. I had a bunch of fights scheduled and then they would get canceled. And then some shit fucking hit the fan and happened, and you know, our luck, they decided to close down. Before that closed down though, again, you know, some stupid shit happened. Me and my friends started to go out, and George was like, oh, we should go ice skating. I went ice skating. I broke my ankle ice skating. So now these people at this towing business, now they're super pissed at me. They're like, what the fuck are you doing going ice skating, dude? Now you hurt yourself and you can't fight. You cannot do that shit. So they told me I can't do any of that stupid shit no more. Like, you're there to fight, you know, this is costing us money, blah, 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 all that crap, right? So things are going good. Then they ended up decided to close the place down or something. They were cool with letting me and George stay there for some reason. They must have took a liking to us and we got along with their kids. So we were able to stay there. And we were still working out and training and doing all that stuff. The gym, the way we trained was, man, super awesome. Every day from Monday through Friday, they loaded us up into the back of this pickup truck and they took us out by this airport. And we had this route to run. They dropped us off, and believe me, if you didn't run and get to the end, you weren't getting a ride home, because that was your ride home, was that pickup truck. They dropped us off at this one spot. We had to run. And it was 5 miles. So we ran 5 miles Monday through Friday. Once we get to the end of that 5 miles, there's a lot of sand in Jacksonville, so we'd do sprints up and down these sand dunes. It was just, oh my God, it was crazy. And then we'd jump back in the pickup truck, we'd go back to the boxing gym, and then they'd put us through this push-up, sit-up, you know, this routine like that, medicine balls. And then the evening time, then we'd have a break all day. We could do whatever we wanted. And then the evening time was when we were doing our bag work, you know, and sparring and mitt work and things like that. So we were training twice a day. The morning was our cardio conditioning working out, and then the evening time was the bag work and the sparring. So once things got closed down and they allowed me and George to stay, we were still training and doing our thing. But then it seemed like Tommy Richardson wasn't coming in at the times like he used to do. So I'm thinking they must have quit paying him or something and he wasn't coming. So it got to the point where like now we don't have a boxing coach. We're like, fuck. So, you know, they still allowed us to stay there. So me and George were like, well, we should probably just get some jobs because they don't give us money to go out and do nothing. So we'll get some jobs. George got a job at some donut shop. I got a job at Champ Sports in Jacksonville, Florida. And then some crazy shit happened. And shortly after that, we had to leave. So I'm walking or jogging back and forth to work. The mall was probably, I think it took me probably like maybe 20, 30 minutes to jog there. So I was jogging, I was cutting through neighborhoods, and I wouldn't say the neighborhoods I was cutting through were real terrible, but you know, they weren't super nice either. Nothing that I would think would have a problem, where I'd have a problem. So there was some gang there that I found out. This gang approached me on the way back from Champs. They call themselves the Lynch Crew. They knew each other. They're kind of like, you know how like the Crips wear blue bandanas, the Bloods wear red bandanas. Well, these guys, the Lynch Crew, they wore Miami Hurricane hats. So that was like their thing. Every single one of them had a Miami Hurricane hat. So there was like 5 or 6 of them all kind of standing around hanging out under this bridge that I was, and I'm kind of walking, and I kind of tried to move off the sidewalk to get around them, and then they moved, and then I went the other way, and then they moved that way. So I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? So instead of continuing my jog, I just walked. I got a book bag on with my work clothes, and I walk, and they stopped me. They're like, what's going on? I was like, you know, just chilling, just coming back from work. They're like, well, we've been seeing you run through here every day. Well, if you want to come through this way, you're going to have to pay us some money. I just laughed at him. I chuckled at him. I said, oh, yeah? I said, really? And he said, yeah, you know, you can't just, this is our turf. We're the Lynch Crew, blah, 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 and we run these blocks, yada, 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 bullshit, whatever, right? I'm not the least bit concerned with these dudes. Like, I'm in the best shape of my life. You know, I don't know Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu at the time, but I know how to wrestle, and I can box my ass off right now, and I'm in super duper good shape. Best shape I've ever been in my life. I'm the least bit worried about these guys. And they were probably like in the age, like they were probably, I would say they were anywhere from 17 to 24 years old in age, and there's about 6 or 7 of them. So they're all kind of, one guy's mostly doing the talking, so I'm guessing that he's, you know, he's their leader or whatever. And, you know, he's trying to tell me that, you know, we're going to have to work out some kind of deal for me cutting through there. And I just said, hey, look, dude, that's not happening. I'm not paying you any money to cut through here. Like, that's that. And I could kind of start telling that the situation was getting sketchy. I could tell that a fight was going to happen. They're going to jump me. Something's going to happen, and I'm outnumbered. I got to be the first one. I got to be the first one to get the jump on them. So I take off my backpack and I just set it down. And I start talking to him. So I'm trying to talk to him, and I'm trying to figure out what a good time is to sucker punch this dude in the face. So we're bantering back and forth, and I'm standing my ground that, look, dude, I'm not paying you any money. It ain't happening. So I finally decided to hit him. So I just cracked his ass and then fucking knocked him down. And then I can't remember, because everything just happened so fast. I just went to the next one, boom, boom, boom. Went to the next one, boom, boom, boom. Next to the next one, boom, boom, boom. I literally and I know people always say, oh, street fights aren't like the movies. They don't come at you one at a time. But I think I caught these guys so off guard, and I was hitting them so fast that it really felt like I was just dealing with one of them at a time. I don't think I had to land more than 2 or 3 punches at the most to knock them all out. So I knocked a few of them out. The rest of them I knocked down. and I leveled them. Every single one of them I leveled. And one of them, I remember him kind of crawling and getting back up, and he started running down the street. He's like, I got something for you, motherfucker, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, whatever. So I just grab my book bag, put it on. I just start walking. Them dudes ain't fucking with me. So this dude runs into this brown house, and he comes out with a baseball bat. And I'm like, oh, fuck. So he starts running at me with a baseball bat. And I'm in such good shape. I just did a slow jog and freaking turned around. I was jogging backwards, fucking laughing at them, flipping them off and shit. And I ended up snagging one of their hats too, because I grabbed one of their hats. And I went back to the boxing gym to where we live. And I was like, George, man, you gotta fucking see this shit. I got one of their fucking hats. I was showing him. He was laughing his fucking ass off. He thought it was fucking hilarious. You know, I got this hat. We ended up making a video or something too, but I can't find it. It was on VHS tape where I was showing this hat, and we were doing some funny karaoke shit on that video. We had some fun down there. So shortly after that, I got a gun from George, and it's just like a little 380, and I had that. I can't remember if I bought it off George or if he just let me borrow it or something like that. But I had that, and the owner's son that owned the tow truck company, his kid was a little bitch. He was a nice kid. His name was Lee. He was a really good boxer too, but he was a bitch. So he ended up, I don't know, he was in our apartment thing, hanging out, BSing with us, and I think he saw the gun, or maybe I was dumb enough and I showed it to him, and then, you know, bragging about it or something, and then I hid the gun back. But then a few days later, his dad and mom ended up calling me into their office, and they're like, hey, Dan, you know, Lee told us that you guys had a gun, yada, yada. You know, we can't tolerate that around here, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I ain't got a gun. You can look, you know, blase, blase. And they're like, we're not going to look. We just kind of feel like it's best that you guys, you know, you guys move along. We're willing to pay for your bus ticket back home, wherever you guys came from. We'll pay for it, and we'll drop you guys off. And, you know, it was nice knowing you. We'll leave on good terms, but we need you guys to go. So, George decided to come back to Erie, Pennsylvania with me. So we moved back to Erie. So we got on the Greyhound bus and we went back to Erie. Now that got crazy. That got super. Now, actually, no, George must, I can't remember where George went. Maybe he went to Michigan first or something like that, because he eventually ended up with me in Erie, but he didn't come back at the same time as I did in Erie. He ended up coming back maybe a few weeks after that. This happened so long ago, so I'm trying to remember. Because the trip home from Jacksonville on the Greyhound bus got fucking nutty as shit. Like, you would think I'm making these stories up if you weren't there to believe it. So I'm on the bus from Jacksonville going back home. And I just remember the bus was going through Kentucky. I remember when I got on the bus, I just remember this dude in the back, this black guy, almost like he was almost like a black, maybe Indian type guy, like Indian from, like, you know, like a Middle Eastern Indian type guy. He had a real, like, crazy looking fro, and it looked like he was drinking. Like, he just didn't look like he had his wits with him about it. He caught my eye, and I just didn't like the dude, just on sight. I sat quite a few seats in front of him. He was in the very back of the bus, the very last seat, and I was probably like 3/4 of the way back. Everything's fine. I got a seat to myself. I'm sleeping up against the window on the way. And Greyhound buses take forever when you go somewhere because they have so many stops. So we had a stop. We all got off the bus, you know, take a piss break, whatever, grab a bite to eat, whatever it was we were doing. I just know we were in Kentucky because the Kentucky State Police got involved. I get back on the bus. I sit in my seat, and I'm sitting on the outside on the aisle. And there's a seat next to me. He comes in and he nudges me. He says, hey, can you scooch over so I can sit down? And I'm thinking, you gotta be fucking kidding me. This motherfucker wants to sit with me. Oh, fuck. So I scooch over. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. Well, there's more people that got on the bus. Because if it was empty, I'd be like, look, dude, you can sit somewhere else. But it was getting pretty crowded on the bus. So I just figured maybe someone took his seat. I didn't look back and look to see if his seat was taken. I just scooched over. He's sitting next to me. He's not talking to me. He's not doing nothing like that. He seems to be minding his own business. So I lean my head against the window to just get some rest, sleep. And I'm sleeping, and I woke up a couple times. I felt like somebody was touching me. And I don't mean touching my arm. I mean touching my junk. I felt like something kept touching my junk. And I'm looking, and nothing's going on. And I'm like, man, what the fuck, man? I was like, that's weird. That's very weird. So now I'm kind of like, now I can't sleep. I want to sleep. I'm tired of shit. But I woke up twice, and I got bad vibes. So I'm like, well, I'm just going to lay down. I'm still going to try to sleep. I'm tired. You know, it's late at night. You know, I don't even know what time it is. It's late at night. I want to sleep. So I lay my head down, and this dude next to me must have thought I was sleeping. Says the next time I woke up, this dude was trying to pull my zipper down in my pants. Yeah, I'm not even kidding. So I woke up and I looked down, and this dude has his hand like trying to unzip my pants. I was like, what the fuck are you doing? I was like, I said, you fucking faggot. And then he punched me in the face, and shit hit the fan. I just started wrecking this dude. I was fucking patting him. I was stomping him. I was beating the shit out of this dude, and we're driving down the highway. I don't know what, but everybody, you know, the bus is full. Everyone is freaking the fuck out, and I'm murdering this dude in the bus aisle. Murdering this dude. The bus driver is on his speaker. Stop, blah, blah, blah. I'm not stopping. I'm beating this dude till he doesn't move. And I finally beat him to the point to where he definitely wasn't moving, you know, not very much at least, blood everywhere. And all I see is flashing lights all around the bus. I don't know how many cop cars were circled around this bus, but maybe they were just on the one side, but the way the lights were flashing, they were all over the place. There had to be 6 or 8 Kentucky State Police cars. I think that's what they call them in Kentucky, or maybe they were sheriff's cars. They basically follow the bus, and they get off at the next exit, and they get off at, I don't even know where we were at, a truck stop or something. And the cops come on with their guns, boom, boom. I get cuffed. I got hauled off the bus, and they're questioning everybody. They question me, what's going on? I told them what happened, and luckily, the people on the bus must have told them, you know, that guy was weird and creepy and was doing something, because they ended up keeping that guy and arresting that guy, and they didn't let him back on the bus, but they uncuffed me and let me on the bus with no charges. So I got back on the bus and made it back home to Erie with all my stuff, without any charges, with nothing happening, and I got back to Erie. Once I got back to Erie, I wanted to continue with my boxing career, and so I went back to the Lower East Side, and I started boxing for them. So I spent a year in Jacksonville, and I spent about a year in Daytona first, then I spent a year in Jacksonville. I boxed for 2 years before I went to Florida, so right there I got 4 years of boxing experience. So I get back, I think I got back, it was 95 or 96, and I started boxing again. I did really well. I won fights, lost some fights. I did real well. Kind of went back and forth, amateur. Still didn't turn pro. I ended up fighting pro in boxing, kind of quite a few years later after I started boxing pro in MMA. I got some fights, and I was just training on my own. I kind of got back with Al Zook again because I opened up my own gym for MMA and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and I invited Al to come teach boxing there. So I was kind of doing boxing on my own, but also doing it with him, and I started boxing professionally, kind of just on my own, managing myself. Al Zook was my first boxing coach, ended up being my final boxing coach when I won the fight in Erie, Pennsylvania. Al's worked with some pretty famous boxers. He's got a lot of experience. He's worked with Paul Spadafora. He was training Paul Spadafora for a while, who's a former lightweight world champion. And also he's worked with a local former world champion, John Boy Bizarro. John Boy is a former lightweight world champion in the IBO organization, who I think is a punk bitch motherfucker. So anybody watching this, please go back and tell him that I call him a punk bitch motherfucker. He won't do nothing about it anyways. He knows where I live, so if he's got a problem with me calling him a punk bitch motherfucker, he knows my phone number. So he's a punk bitch motherfucker. That's what I think of him. So on to the next thing. I can't remember what year my first pro fight was in, but it was somewhere in Ohio, right around the Columbus area, I think. And at the time, I had about 20 amateur fights. I had a good record. I can't remember exactly what it was. I definitely won way more than I lost. And I was going to fight this guy. He boxed in the Navy. He had over 100 amateur fights. And let me tell you, in boxing or MMA, but especially in boxing, if you're the hometown guy, they try to feed you wins, easy fights. So if you're not hooked up with a local promoter that's helping you out, especially if you're not like Olympic boxer where you can pretty much take just about most people they're going to pair you with, you got to be really careful who you match yourself up with. And this is also why any fighter should get a manager, because fighters, they'll fight anybody. Like if you're a true fighter, you don't give a fuck what weight class it is. You don't give a fuck who they are, what they've done. It don't matter. You think you can win no matter what. Okay, so I should have had a manager. And boxing's pretty crooked. So my first fight is against this guy from the Navy. Has over 100 amateur fights. I'm sure they thought it was going to be an easy fight for him. But oh no, I'm not easy for anybody. So I whooped this dude's fucking ass, dude. I don't know. I lost the decision. I don't know how I lost the decision, but I had my friend corner me, and we were retarded. We didn't even have a spit bucket. When it was between rounds, after the first round, he put some water in my mouth, and I didn't want to swallow it. I don't like swallowing water during the fight, and I'm like, where am I going to spit it? I just spit it right on the canvas, man. The ref and the athletic commission, the judges, they were all like, what the fuck are you doing, dude? Like, where are you from? Like, what is wrong with you? You know, they just looked at me as this MMA guy because I was fighting MMA, and they didn't really know I knew much about boxing, but I was beating this dude's fucking ass. I whooped his ass. And afterwards, I didn't win. I threw a fit, started going crazy. Even the crowd went nuts. They knew I got hosed. And I went back there talking shit to the dude that I fought. I was kind of blaming him. It wasn't his fault. I was just crazy back then. I was talking shit to him. He took off. He thought I was going to beat him up outside the ring. Shit hits the fan. I got robbed. So then, my next fight, kind of the same thing. I think I ended up fighting in West Virginia. Fought a really good dude. He definitely legitimately beat me, but it was a close fight. I did really good against him. And I think I ended up with six professional fights. I only won one. I really won way more than that. I probably lost legitimately three of those, I would say. So lost that one, lost another one, blah, 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 whatever. So then I got invited back to fight in the same place where I beat that Navy guy at. And this next guy I'm going to fight, his name is Eric Deere. We're actually friends now. We're actually good friends now. He's one of my good buddies. But I didn't know him at the time, and he fought for the main event that night that I fought that Navy guy. So I was fighting him in the main event. So that was kind of crazy. So, because, you know, this dude looked good, man. I'm like, fuck, man, this guy's pretty tough, but hey, I'll fight him. Who gives a shit, you know? So I fight him. We had a war, man. Oh my God, we were throwing down, man. We threw down. The fight ended up being a draw. And I'm going to admit, I think he should have probably edged me in the fight because he knocked me down. I can't remember which round he knocked me down. It might have been the second or the third round. But he knocked me down and the ref called it a slip. He didn't daze me. He just caught me off balance and I got it down and I fell down. But I got right up. I think that's probably why the ref thought it was just a slip. But he really did knock me down. I even admitted to it. He came to me after the fight and been like, man, admit it. That was a knockdown. I knocked you down. I was like, yeah, you did. I was like, I'll admit it. You did. He's like, man, I knew it. At least you admit it. I'm really an honest person. I don't bullshit. If you knock me down, fuck it, dude. I don't give a fuck. It's not going to change the outcome of a fight, me telling him that I knocked him down. It's not like he's going to go back and say, hey, dude, even that guy said you knocked me down. It doesn't work that way, but it was a war. It was a crazy war. I ended up fighting in an MMA fight the next day, but I don't want to tell that story because this is about boxing. So that was a crazy fun fight. Fought a couple more times, and I was really fighting to just make money, man. I was fighting to pay bills. I needed money to pay my bills, and fighting was a means to do that. My last fight I fought was in Erie, Pennsylvania, and I won that fight. It's the only fight I won in professional boxing, and I hooked up. I knew this guy for a long time. His name's Mike Akery. He's a pretty famous promoter. I even think he might have been connected to putting on one of Muhammad Ali's fights or Mike Tyson's fight or something. But he's worked with a lot of top-notch famous fighters, and he was putting on a show in Erie, and again, that's the thing. So he found me a fight that he thought for sure I could win, and I did. I beat the dude down, beat him ridiculously. I ended up knocking him out. The ref stopped the fight, and that was my boxing win. I still train boxing even to this day. So my boxing experience goes to about. About 27, 28 years boxing experience. I'm a two-time Golden Gloves champion, former professional fighter. Actually, one of my professional fights, I fought in Erie, and that real famous boxer, that female boxer, her name is Vonda Ward. I fought on the Vonda Ward card actually, and that was cool. So I fought on the undercard of a Vonda Ward card in Cleveland, and this was pretty crazy. I fought a guy that was on the Olympic team. His name was Antonio Johnson. He was managed by Roy Jones Jr., okay? Roy Jones Jr. came to my fight with this dude and watched him fight. He was cornered by, I can't remember which Mayweather it is, but it's the Mayweather guy that always wore like the sailor hat, the Navy hat or something like that. And Spud Webb was there also, which is super cool. So someone came up to me after my fight and said, hey, do you know who Spud Webb is? I'm like, who don't know who Spud Webb is? Played for the Charlotte Hornets? Yeah, I know who he is. He's like, well, he wants to know if he could get his picture taken with you. I was like, what? I was like, are you pulling my fucking leg? I was like, I should ask him if he would take his picture with me. So it was pretty cool. He told me I was the toughest guy that he's ever seen fight, and he loved my fight. I lost that fight. The ref stopped it in the third round. I was getting pounded, but that was a pretty cool experience. I got to meet Spud Webb. He has to get his picture taken with me. I met Roy Jones Jr. and I talked to the guy I fought afterwards, Antonio Johnson. And he was super duper cool dude and was just telling me about his boxing experience, what he's been doing. And I didn't get to meet his quarterman, the Mayweather guy, but it was just it was a pretty cool experience fighting a guy that was at that level and stuff. So that's in a nutshell. That's my boxing experience right there. I hope you guys enjoyed it.